Okay.
There we go. It's going.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Going Within podcast. Today, I've got a little bit of a different podcast. The two podcasts I've done before was one with my partner, and secondly was my good friend Ian. This time, I don't know much about this person, so I'm very excited. I get to learn as well as you do straight away about her lifestyle, her what's happened in her life, and all about her personality. So I'll hand it over if you want to introduce yourself, please, Laura.
Okay, I'm Laura and I'm from the United States, originally from Connecticut, and I currently live in New Hampshire. I have been on a spiritual path for quite a while, but I saw my entire life fall apart around 2010, and I had to basically rebuild it from scratch. And now I'm a tarot reader, Reiki practitioner, and yeah, that's it.
Wow. Okay, very cool. So, so you said you're a Reiki technician. That's very much like the last person I had on here, Ian. He does the exact same. So that's cool. How you both? Do you know each other at all, or follow each other, or you,
Yes,
Ian?
actually, I don't know him, but I do, we follow each other on Instagram.
Right, cool, cool. Right, so let's just delve straight into it then. I mean, you said straight away that something's happened in 2010.
Mm,
It sounds like something big has happened. So if you wouldn't mind going a bit into that,
sure.
please.
Well, it kind of, I'm gonna back up just a little bit to give some background about my life. In my early 20s, I was basically living the American dream, which turned out to be a complete illusion. I had a career, I was a teacher. Um, I was married, owned my own home, and slowly my life started to fall apart around 2008, I believe it was.
Wow. Okay. So in 2008, what sort of things was happening then for your life to sort of fall apart?
Well, I no longer enjoyed my career. And that started to happen in the early 2000s. I was a teacher and I felt like the education system just was not meeting my needs or the needs of the students. I
Right.
became very depressed, anxious.
Yeah. These are really big things as well. I mean, I can relate to anxiety. I can relate to depression.
Mhm.
It's horrible to feel like that. So is there anything in particular that was a big thing that happened, or was it sort of progressive that you started to feel like, oh, I don't really want to do this life. I don't really want to do what I'm
Started,
doing in my life.
it started progressively. I decided that I was going to leave teaching, and I noticed my mental health getting worse. And then my physical health started to take a hit, and relationships started to fall apart.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a big indicator, isn't it? Especially
Mhm.
like your relationships and stuff, and when people are no longer sort of vibrating on the same wavelength as you want
Mhm.
to do different things. Other people you're already friends with and connected with don't. It's usually when friendships and relationships do break apart. So also again, I can relate to that. Um, so 2010 onwards, then, can you tell us a bit about that? What happened
Yeah.
going forward from 2010?
So around 2010, I met my current husband and I ended up moving to a new state, but I was still really in a depressive mood and I was not picking myself up. Life didn't seem to make sense. And then around 2015, my son asked me if I'd ever heard of Reiki. And I hadn't at that particular time. So I think he tried it first. I took him, he was very interested in it. And the woman, when I walked in, I was like, wow, it's like I could see myself in that environment. And I ended up trying Reiki and I started to remember so much about myself. It's very, very interesting.
Wow, cool, awesome. I love that. So I love as well that you said that your son was into it as well. I mean, that is what you want, isn't it? I've got a 4-year-old, and I'm so looking forward to when he gets older and starts to be into the same things as me. And I can teach him all about what I've been through, etc. I love how your son's into it. Is there a difference? Can I ask this question about from your last husband? Because you said you was married before, and your husband
Mhm.
now. Is that okay to ask? Because was
Yes.
there a difference?
Um, yes and no. I mean, my first husband, it was hard because when I was going through like this, I didn't realize it was a spiritual awakening. I had never heard that term in my life. So I was very connected to the 3D. And I started to tell him about these like thoughts I was having about how things didn't make sense about life. And he just kind of dismissed it. And as soon as I met my current husband, I would tell him little bits of my life, not too much too soon, but it was like I would say something to him and he's like, yes, like he understood me. So there was a big difference. He was more like encouraging me to follow my path rather than his path or the path of the world.
Yeah. Oh, that's massive as well. Having a supportive partner who will listen to you when you're going through them tough times, because it is tough.
Mhm.
Spiritual awakenings, I know if people don't know what spiritual awakening is, basically in a nutshell, it's your life flipping upside down.
Mm,
Everything that you thought you believed sort of gets dismissed. It's like going to school again, isn't it, really? It's like
yes.
going through the whole process again of not knowing anything, being so open-minded and learning as you go. So you've gone through your awakening a lot before me. I'm 31 now. I went through my awakening at 2020,
Okay.
and it's ups and downs and craziness, and you never really know what to believe anymore. But it's cool when you get to a point in your life where you've gone through the awakening process and you start to. For me personally, I went through a lot of despair and a lot of depression and a lot of sadness. Where I felt so sad losing people who were already there, but then learning to trust myself and sort of coming through that, and then get meeting new people like Ian, like yourself, like I've made an Instagram last year and I've met so many cool people, so many open mind people that's on my level now, like so to speak. That
Mm,
it is really fascinating. It's so good to go through the awakening process. In the end, you know.
right.
Um, so about your son then, we may as well talk about your son. How old is he, if you don't mind me asking?
He is 24.
24, cool. So is he awakened?
He is. I would
Yeah.
say he is really the reason that I have stayed on this path. I wouldn't say he's part of a spiritual community,
Mhm.
but he just understands the world. He understands there's so much more at play here than what we realize. And again, in 2020, the same thing. When people were going through a lot of awakening, I was having like another level up. And he really opened my eyes to so much.
Yeah. I honestly, I believe that children are the biggest teachers in life.
Mhm.
And people may think, no, no, the elders know better, but no, children have taught me a lot of things, especially my own son personally. He's taught me so much about letting go, having more fun, don't take
Mhm.
life too serious. And I think
Mhm.
I can relate to you as again with the children. I've only got 4 year olds. It's not the same as you having your son, but it is in a sense of we can still resonate. We can still learn from children 100%.
Absolutely.
Um, and I think as well what you said there about the awakening process, about how you went through another awakening.
Mm.
A lot of people don't realize that as well, that when you go through your first spiritual awakening, it's not your first and last.
Right.
There's going to be so many different awakenings. How many awakenings are so many? How many like not opportunities, but how can I word this? How many times have you looked at yourself and gone, "Wow, I'm actually going through another transition"?
I would say two. There have been two large awakenings. The rest have been incremental. So the first would have been around 2010, and then again 2020.
Yeah. 2020 is always that year that comes up with a lot of people, isn't it? Like with COVID and everything like that.
Yeah.
Um, COVID was a weird time, wasn't it? And I look back at it now and think it was one of the best times of my life, weirdly, because it sort of made you look in the mirror. Does that make sense? It made you sort of look at yourself and go, whoa, life's actually happening. Like, this is real. I'm locked inside. I have to do something. I remember in 2020 with COVID, and I was looking in the mirror. I was training. I'm so big on training, and I was training in my back garden with anything I could find. We had like a little bench in my back garden. I used to put it on my neck. I used to squat with it. The next door neighbours must have thought I was crazy, and they're probably watching me think he's lost his marbles. Him, but I remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, oh, I'm so unhappy. I'm so depressed. Like, I don't like the way I look. I need to change.
Mm.
And COVID was a massive in that, because it sort of forced me to actually stop still. And my life was so all over the place before. So let's go into a bit of COVID times then, 2020. What was that like for you? Was it hard or?
Um, During that time, I started to have a lot of dreams. And I remember one in particular. I kept, before the dream started, I kept feeling like something wasn't right in my life, because after each awakening, I resisted, and which I know now why 2010 was such a hard time for me, because of that resistance. But in 2020, so I had tried to go back to like a normal life, a normal job. And that was just not the path for me, but I couldn't always see that.
Yeah.
And I 2020 just opened me again that I needed to step more deeply onto my path. So I started getting these feelings like I need to do something different with my life. I really have to stop. Like, integrating in the 3D is okay, but to
Mhm.
keep trying to live in the 3D and deny who I am. So I started to have these dreams. And I remember one very vivid where there was a spiritual being. I didn't know at the time what an extraterrestrial guide or a star seed was, but came to me in this dream to tell me that it was time again to step on this path. And I remember this being putting his forehead up to mine. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, this is how we communicate. And I woke up, and after that period, it was like, I just knew that I needed to step more deeply onto a spiritual path. I started reading tarot again. I think that's when I completed the Reiki training, because I had only done level 1 up until that point. So I continued on through the master level. And yeah, it was difficult, but not. It was like I had more clarity.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love how you bring up the spiritual being. That was that in a dream, did you say? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love that. So, could you give us a little bit of information about that spiritual being? Was it an alien? Was it a literal, like, color, shape?
So I saw like this blue being sitting in front of me. And then I had heard the term, probably a few months after that, I heard the term star seed. And I said, well, that's interesting. I didn't really want to get hung up on labels. But I did start looking into it. And then I found this amazing mentor later that year. And I discovered that this being was an extraterrestrial guide. They were, sorry, Pleiadian, and started to introduce me to like my past lives. It was very interesting.
Oh wow! Now you're opening up a can of worms with the past life stuff. I mean, I absolutely love hearing people's stories. I'll tell you a little bit about last year. I did an Akashic record reading course, and it was fascinating. And in that course, I thought I was going to actually, I still might do in the future, but I thought I was going to go out and actually do people's records for them. It's not been the case so far, but I feel like when I did the records course, it was more for my own sort of recognition of who I am more deeper, because I
Mhm.
knew sort of where I've been, where I've incarnated and stuff like that. But it went to a whole new level last year. So I did Debbie Solaris's course. I don't know if you've ever heard of Debbie Solaris.
Mm.
No,
No, I
she's
haven't.
really good. Yeah, she's really good with Akashic record readings, and I did her course. So yeah, let's delve right into that because I find all that fascinating.
Mm.
Um, you say that he helped you to discover your, let's say, multi-dimensional versions. I like that word rather than past lives because I don't really believe that with past or present, everything's sort of happening now.
Right.
Um, so let's delve into some of, if you want to tell us a bit about your multi-dimensional versions of yourself, if you didn't mind.
Yes. Well, initially what I had discovered was that I had incarnated in the Pleiades, and I had a lot of ties to there. And as I went a little bit deeper, I started hearing about Lyran star seeds and realized that it went further, where that's where one of those dimensions was. And whatever happened during that life, I split, went to the Pleiades, came to, I think it was Lemuria. So it's really just been like one step after another. As far as anything specific, I've only been shown like healing, that I had been a healer. I had been, um, oh goodness, I can't remember what else, if there was anything specific, but that I had also carried some traumas with me also that I
Mhm.
carried into this lifetime. So
Yeah,
my thing was to heal all of those.
yeah, 100%. I mean, with
Mm.
you bringing up the Lyran lives, I can relate to that as well. I've incarnated there many times and spent many journeys and many lifetimes in that star system. And I can tell you 100%, yes, trauma will come with that. Yes. And there's no doubt with what happened there. I don't know how much you know of what happened there. I've been told plenty of stories about the wars and stuff and
Mhm.
losing losing our loved ones. And a lot of the Lyran lives relate to the ones that I'm living now, especially with my father. I mentioned it in my past video with Ian. Finding out that my father was very ill with diagnosed with level, or what was it now, level 4, something like that, um, brain tumor.
Mm.
So of course, we don't know how long he's got to live. I found out 4 months previous before that I had issues getting over my dad passing away in Lyra. So it's so crazy how you can find out a life before that you had before, whatever you want to say, that comes into this life now. It's amazing. Like you said, you've done your healing with your Palladian lives. Is that correct? Yeah.
I would say I've done a lot of healing. I wouldn't say I've done all of it, because a lot of the stuff that I've carried into this lifetime was like from being silenced, like not being allowed to speak out. And I've carried that with me. So that's kind of been a process.
Yeah.
I can't say
100%.
I'm 100%.
Okay. And I just think it's nice how you said that, how you can't speak out. And now you've given a platform basically to tell me everything you want to tell me. Do you know
I
what I
know,
mean?
kind of
You've got,
funny.
I'm listening. All the people who I plan on a lot of people watching these videos, and they're going to be listening to you.
Mm.
And it's really nice because I feel like people are going to reach out and say, I feel a bit like you feel. Let's talk to each other. Let's get everything that we need to get out. It's so important to actually speak your mind, speak your truth, and not hold it in. Um, so you have all the, half an hour, whatever we decide to do more. You have all the time in the world to speak your mind, whatever you want to say, which is awesome. So yeah, we'll get on to the next topic anyway. So what I asked the two people before, especially my partner, I asked them about the childhood. Did you have a
Mhm.
good childhood?
No,
No.
I can't
Is
say
that
I did. Did you want me to go into detail or?
I was just gonna say, is that something that you could tap into, tell
Absolutely.
us about if you didn't mind, or is it traumatic?
Yeah, it was a traumatic childhood. I
Well,
was born into a hostile environment. My dad had struggled with alcoholism and drug addiction, and
right.
unfortunately, that made him very violent. And
Oh,
yeah, there was a lot of rough times. And it wasn't until around 2015 where I realized I had blocked so much of it out that I was also blocking out all the good memories that were to lead me on the path that I am on today.
right. I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. The only thing I can say to sort of even like go into it, I always believe everything happens for a purpose,
Mm,
and people are learning lessons as they go. So maybe, you having a traumatic childhood, you might have needed that experience for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but
I
even
do
so,
think that. I do think that our soul signs up for certain lessons. Some of it may be because we have some karma from other incarnations, and some is just to help us learn and grow. So I understand why things happen the way they did.
yeah, yeah, totally. I'm really glad that you see that side of it. I speak to so many people, and they're in anger all the time about what's happening to them, and I say to them like, well, everything is happening for a reason, and your soul needs to experience this for a certain reason. And 9 times out of 10, they don't really like that answer.
Right. I
So
think there comes a point where you have to make a decision to really surrender to that higher power or your even just your higher self and ask for the guidance that even if you don't understand why it happened, what can you learn, what can you take with you? And that's where I was able to begin that healing when I realized this is for my soul, and these are the parents I chose to help me learn those lessons.
yeah, 100%. I like that. I often say to people as well that our biggest enemies in this life are our best friends on the other side. And I always take real comfort from that, because I know that it
Mm,
is sort of a game that we are playing, and not people are not always evil. Sometimes they're doing stuff out of unconditional love for you as their best friend, which I find so comforting, because it's kind of scary. Imagine like, oh, people are actually really nasty and they want to hurt you. I mean, maybe that's the case in some parts, but
mm,
I feel for my life personally, anybody who ever never say I've not got on with, I don't feel like they're nasty. I feel like we're close in a way.
mm.
That makes
That's a
sense.
good perspective. Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, I do feel like that, and I feel like don't hate them, just actually appreciate them, and show them gratitude for showing me another side of myself. Them bringing anger or anxiousness or whatever that emotion might be out of me, I try and spin it into a positive way. So no matter what happens, I just think I've learned a lot from this experience. So thank you. Even if it was a horrible, horrible experience,
Right.
in the time I'll be angry, but a couple of hours later I'll sit down and really understand why that happened. So it's interesting. You've been through a lot, by the way. I mean, you're a really strong soul.
Thank you.
You are. I mean, yeah, of course. To go through what you've been through, and then to openly come out and say, "I'm going to speak about this on a podcast," to be on YouTube.
Mm.
Um, my hat goes off to you. You've done
Oh,
really
thank
well.
you.
Oh,
Well,
I
that's
mean,
a very interesting thing that you say that I open up to speak on YouTube because I do still resist. I can tell you how that all came about. I had seen your post that you did, and I remember watching it, and I heard this voice say to me, "Do it," and I just looked like
wow.
I am like, "Yeah, I don't think so," and I put my phone down. And then I hear this alert because I have this daily motivation app. And it said on it, don't overthink things. Sometimes we can convince ourselves not to do something, and those are the experiences we regret for the rest of our life. Now I'm
Wow.
still resisting at this point.
Right. Okay. That's amazing.
Pulled a card for myself shortly after that, and it says on the oracle card, answer the call. And
Oh, wow.
oh my gosh, like it doesn't get any clearer.
100%. Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. That's proper synchronicity, isn't it?
And it was all like right back to back. And I was, so then I sent you a message. I'm like, how can I not do this?
Yeah. Do you know what? When you messaged me, I was really happy that you did. I'm all for people messaging me at the moment. And when I saw that you messaged, I said, "Yep, 100% straight away." I didn't even like because we don't know each other, do we? This is our
Oh,
first
no.
time talking say in person
Right.
over a Zoom call. We have shared messages via Instagram. Um, oh, apparently it's coming up. Your
This
meeting will
is
end
okay. So I
in 10
guess
minutes.
because I'm recording and I have the free version of Zoom, this is only giving us 10 more minutes.
Oh, it's okay. What we can do, we'll do 10 more minutes and then we can do a part two sometime. No problem.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, we can do another one. It's fine. Um, with I'm not going to edit this at all. I love just like proper, true to life things that's happening right now. I love just cracking on and this is what's happening.
Mhm.
I'll tell the viewers right now what's happening with me. I bought a new laptop for Christmas and I'm having so much trouble recording a video on Zoom. It's it's crazy. Um, I set the intention to do podcasts, and I'm so passionate for doing it, and I'm clicking the record button, and it won't record. So what's happened is Laura's actually recording this, and this is what's happened. There's 10 minutes left, but it's fine. We'll do a part two. There's plenty that Laura wants to tell the world. Yeah, so we've got a bit, we've got another 9 minutes left. We'll carry on and we'll talk about synchronicities because what you've just said then is awesome. I had goosebumps when you said you heard a voice saying "do it." I love that you just went for it as well. That's great. Um, was you still a bit like because when you heard the voice and you said, "Oh no," you still resisted a little bit.
Mhm.
Where do you think that comes from? Is that a sort of a cycle that's happened in your whole life where you
Yeah.
doubt yourself?
And I
Mm,
would say that it could go back to my multi-dimensional and other incarnations, but I can even speak to this one because of the childhood I had. It was always where just be quiet. I had to silence myself. And speaking became very difficult for me. I developed social anxiety so bad. And I know that I was at another level here where I'm being called to step out even more and be seen. And my ego wants to pull me back.
yeah. That ego egg keeps trying to pull you back, but you're not letting it this time.
Mhm.
You're carrying on, and you honestly, I'm really proud of you for coming out and speaking. Even the stuff that you've told me about your childhood and everything. If you're up for it, we'll make a part two in the next week or so, or whenever you're
Sure.
free. We'll get around to it,
Mhm.
and we'll have a think what we can speak about again. But this video has been perfect, I think, because is this sort of your first time speaking publicly?
Mhm. Yep.
Right. Well, that do you know what? Hats go off to you. Well done. This is perfect then, really, that it's ended a little bit shorter because we'll sort of getting you in, easing you into it. You know what I mean? We don't want to give you a full hour and whatever, and you're left drained for the full day. So I think it's been really nice.
Thank you.
For a first time to come on and you've spoken your truth, you've spoken your mind. Um, if you want, do you want to? I'll tell you what. Send me all your details, and I'll put them in the description box underneath.
Mhm.
Um, but what I want people to do, watch this video. I actually want people to go on Laura's Instagram or whatever Laura puts in the information box. I want you to go and say well done, because this is her first time speaking out. She
Thank
spoke
you.
about so much in detail. And do you know what? I feel like part two, or whenever that happens, I feel like she's going to come out and speak even more truths, and we could be even more prouder of her. So that's what I want everyone to do. Don't congratulate me or anything. Go straight onto Laura's page and say well done, because she's done really well today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you for your time as well. Thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to get to meet up again and to do a part two.
Okay.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching. And like I say, make sure you go and say well done to Laura.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording.